Hello and welcome to the 40-40 Man, the baseball podcast featuring a guy who knows a hell of a lot about the sport and someone else. And today's Greg, why are you pelting ice cubes in my head?
Because there's ice everywhere around Toronto, even in the dome.
Even in the dome.
Even in the dome. Actually, well, not today. Yesterday there was.
So I'm assuming that. So by the way, thanks for tuning in. I am your interim co-host, David Bronfman,
and I am Greg Howard, the lump on the left.
Yes, and so I'm assuming that the reason that you're showering ice all over my head is something to do with the fantastic number of games that we had this week. It was quite a week in baseball. So what happened?
Well, this week for a baseball fan, this week was part awesome and part suck. Because we lost the whole series against Cleveland. That's unprecedented.
That's the suck part.
That's the suck part.
Okay.
I mean, so far there's been 24 games postponed this season, and that's the most since 2007 when there was 25. But there's also been 22 games that are played below 4 degrees Celsius or lower. Like, we've started earlier than usual this year, but it had nothing to do with that. Like, all this is happening just in the last week or so. But yeah, it's ridiculous. Like,
personally, I blame Al Gore for this whole thing.
Yes.
But so we were excited to see a baseball game yesterday, and the gods chose to say otherwise.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, the people in charge of clearing ice off the CN Tower.
Well, maybe they cleared it too well, apparently.
Right.
Maybe they just shoved it over the side. But it put a hole, like a little hole, but still a hole in the roof. And that's the second time that the Dome has actually had to postpone a game. The first was randomly against Kansas City as well. That was in 2001. And that was, they were trying to close the Dome, and then two panels collided with each other.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also remember on opening day, or at least when they were showing off the Sky Dome for the very first time, they're like, "And here's the magical roof opening," and I think the opening took like 45 minutes, or some phenomenally long amount of time when they were doing this live, and they just said, "Well, I guess we'll go away now. We'll show it to you when it's open."
I remember reading stuff on that because when I was a kid, I collected every newspaper clipping from that, and I would make my parents take me to the CN Tower just so I could look over the side and see it being built. And they were championing the fact that it could open and close within 45 minutes, and then now they've got it down to under 20 minutes. But it's just like that's a. But if there's rain coming, that's a long time.
But that's true. But and it just it points out the fact that this is now, even though it seems like a young building because we are old, it is in fact an old building.
Oh yeah, it's coming on its 30th anniversary.
Yeah, still waiting for the real grass in the infield thing.
That will take a while for them to do because they have to. There's so much stuff they have to dig down and then build pipes and all that. They originally they built that thing with pretty much just plain concrete because they were expecting it for concerts and trying to get as many things as possible in there. And yeah, there was no possibility of putting grass in at the time. So.
Only one of two stadiums in Major League Baseball now that do not have grass.
What is the other one?
Is it the Marlins?
No.
Wait, what is it? No,
it's Florida. You are close. Yeah, it's the.
Wait, there's another team in Florida.
Well, they're pretty shit. They're the Tampa Bay, what used to be called the Devil Rays. Yeah. Now the Rays, the Tropicana Dome. That's probably the worst stadium.
That's that one with that little lift at the very back. So you got to watch where you're running.
Oh, it's
terrible. Like a pole in the middle of the
No, that was Detroit. Detroit actually used to have a pole in the middle. There was a good solid foot in play, but Tampa Stadium is terrible, and it's literally that's one of the. Major League Baseball doesn't want Tampa to move.
Yeah.
They want to sort of keep a team down there, but they want a new stadium. And if they don't build a new stadium, they will pluck them out instantaneously and put them somewhere else. So a few years, maybe the Montreal Rays.
Very nice. Yeah. And the Toronto Blue Jays playing in the final stadium without real grass.
Yeah.
So anyhow, this whole thing with the postponements that happened just wanted me to look into other sort of postponed games, which of course, postponements happen all the time in baseball because they play outdoors, and a lot of times there are actually roofs, and so rain is a very common sort of thing. But I wanted to look into like actual cancellations, which is much rarer.
Yeah.
Now they have happened a bunch this year, but so I was like looking at various weather sort of situations. One was that I want to see, like, has a game ever been canceled due to heat? They're playing in high heat, and I found one. Now there are always, like I said, postponements, but I found like a full-on cancellation, which was a 1936 Brooklyn-Cincinnati game.
I can only imagine not many people were wearing shorts. Everyone's in the stands in like a full suit.
Well, yeah, but it's funny because it was hot, but there was probably no one in the stadium at the time because this is Depression era baseball, and it's hot as hell. And if Major League Baseball at the time could think of any way to stop losing money, they were going to do it, and that's probably the reason why they actually canceled that game. And then there's been, of course, a lot of other different ones. Our preseason saw a really great cancellation of a game due to raw sewage between Angels and Dodgers.
Okay, because that's also happened in Oakland as well. Yeah, it's been that's another stadium another team that needs a new stadium. But that was rain had engulfed down and then pumped the sewage up. So the sewage wasn't on the stadium, but it was actually in the dugout as well. Like that's pretty gross. It's Oakland. It's Oakland sewage.
It'll inspire people to get out of the dugout. That's ridiculous. But yeah. So and then you get like your sort of standard delay stories: squirrels, midges, bees with the Jays. There was bees in the outfield with the Jays just a couple of years ago with Jays versus Angels game. Bees in the outfield that caused like a 14-15 minute delay game. Some people say that it is the fastest they've ever seen Edwin Encarnacion run. It was running away from the bees. And then famous ones like the famous pine tar game in 1983. George Brett hit that big homer with the pine tar bat. There
was one in 79 or 80. I'm trying to remember exactly what year, but it was a doubleheader, and in between the doubleheader, it was the great rebel against disco from Old Comiskey Park in Chicago. And at halftime, they were going to blow up all disco records because they wanted to change from disco, and it caused a fire in the field, and they couldn't play the second half of a doubleheader, which was a game that had to be made up again.
So I mean, well, there you go. That's basically a homage to cancellations due to this week, and there is one because the cancellations are bound by the rules, and I was of course looking through my official MLB rules of baseball, which you made me study, and I'm still trying to figure it out. But I found that there is one rule for cancellation is if there is a curfew imposed by law.
Yes.
Which has yet to happen. There were the Baltimore riots, which caused a cancellation, but there was no curfew going on. But I'm here to say that it's Donald Trump's America, and truly anything can happen. I think.
Well, due to the riots, they had a curfew, and then they also played a game completely without fans as well.
Right, the very next day.
But in terms of how the games get canceled or postponed or delayed or whatever. The visiting manager has to hand in their lineup first, and the home team manager is the last one to hand it in. And they have it's usually based on the umpire's decision at that point in time. But if the home manager decides not to hand it in, to delay it for a while, to hold off to see what happens, he can sort of delay the game. But then the umpire is the one that actually gets to cancel the game. Right. So the home manager can postpone it, like delay it. The umpire is the only one that can cancel it.
Well, there you go. Cancellations. What do you want to talk about next?
Well, this is our third episode, and the number between 4 and 2 is 3, and it was Jackie Robinson Day this weekend.
Oh, I thought it was Jakob Poeltl Day. Good old the Austrian handler, number 42 on the Raptors.
Is he
Twinkle Toes?
Yes.
Number 42, the very first Austrian to play in the NBA. He broke the Austrian barrier, and they are playing right now. I'm wearing my Fred VanVleet jersey, so. I'm not just a little at the end of my rope, considering that there's a basketball game going on, very important one, and we're doing it.
And there's also a very important soccer game going on.
Yes,
TFC versus Guadalajara Chivas.
One sport at a time that I'm learning.
But
yes, so as we were saying, yes.
42, Jackie Robinson. Obviously, in 1947, Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier because he was there was no black players in the big leagues at that point in time. And do you know who he used to play the minor leagues for? Jackie Robinson. Do you know what team he played for in the minor leagues? Montreal. Montreal had a minor league team for the Brooklyn Dodgers at the time. So he theoretically played his first professional game in Montreal, but the first big league game was in 1947 for the Brooklyn Dodgers. And the league decided to they've only started doing the Jackie Robinson Day, where every player wears 42 on their jersey since 2004. But in 1997, they universally retired the number 42 from every team. Yeah.
Which is, and that was the first time. Yeah. But that's ever happened.
Do you know,
like, first of all, the first time a team, even a single team.
Yeah. Well, no. There's been numbers retired before, but that's the first time that it's been universally retired that no one is allowed to use that in that sport.
Right.
And do you know who the second one was?
Who was the second person?
1999.
George
Wayne Gretzky.
Okay.
Yeah, Wayne Gretzky. No one's allowed to wear 99, but then that's also like, you can't really wear 99 because you're not that good.
All right, so it wasn't George Bell. I'm gonna write that down. But it's pretty amazing. This all sort of the celebrations, commemorations of Jackie Robinson. This is a man who endured, and he was a trailblazer in his use of nonviolence in the face of extreme racism, and there were other things too. I mean, like most of you are probably familiar with a lot of his baseball accomplishments, or his Major League Baseball accomplishments. But he was also the very first black vice president of a major American corporation, chock full of nuts.
Yes,
the coffee company, and then there was even prior to him being in baseball, he was in military service, and there were segregated companies, and at one point in time, he had to take a bus on a non-segregated bus, and he was told to go to the back of the bus, and like many people to come later, he refused to go to the back of the bus, and it's amazing because he was in doing that, he was recommended for a court martial, but his commander at the time refused to do it, and so the U.S. military universally transferred him to another company so that he could be court-martialed, so that they could find a commander who actually was willing to court-martial Jackie Robinson. They actually transferred him over to somebody else. It's pretty amazing, and so it's
the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Of course, the number 42 is a pretty big deal. A lot of players in other sports are motivated to wear it.
There's a couple of black goaltenders in the NHL who've had 42 put on their or his likeness. I mean, the Jays, even though it's a few days later because all their games got canceled for the weekend, the first game of the doubleheader, all of them are wearing 42 today as well. Kansas City had already done that, but the Jays still wanted to do that, even though it's 2 days later. They still decided to. Oh, and by the way, they won the first game of the doubleheader
11-3.
11-3.
My goodness.
Yeah.
That's not bad, but especially against such an amazing team as the Kansas City Royals. they're tearing it up this year.
Well, the Royals' record is
11-3.
3-11.
3-11. So wins first, losses second. I'm learning. Speaking of learning, I was wondering if we could.
Yes.
Okay. So as many of our as one of our loyal listener, the one that we have, our loyal watcher, should know by now. Greg hands me hands me a hint, something that I need to study for next week.
It's kind of like a pass them a note gym class.
Exactly, but this time it's not meet me behind the bleachers for a little bit of
check one,
but in this case, he hands me something, and last week he handed me on his little board, hands me this thing that just says war on it, war, and I'm like, first of all, I am on to Craig Howard because I'm going to go home with war, and I'm going to be studying something like North Korea or the card game, and then I'm going to come in and I'm going to give my report on or the conflict in the Balkans, and then you're going to tell me, Dave, this is not what I'm talking about. So I figured it out that it has something to do with baseball. All right. So war as it relates to baseball. And so here is a little segment that we like to call "What Did Dave Learn This Week?"
What did Dave learn this week?
All right. The year is 1918, and the Allies have seized the initiative on the Western Front. Major League Baseball ends its season early due to the government redirecting all available Holstein leather and white ash towards the war effort. With Red Sox stars Red Faber and Shoeless Joe Jackson having already joined to serve, Boston follows up its historic.
This is all good. This is all good. But it is not the war that I was talking about. Yes, that was a horrific war, but it's not the war that I was talking about.
What are you talking? I did this whole thing on war and baseball. You told me to do
W.A.R.
What is?
Take a second. Take a second. Look it up. All right. Well, Dave actually brought up something actually kind of cool. History. While Dave study.
Okay.
While Dave is studying to learn about war, I'm going to give you a little this day in baseball history. It's actually there's some cool things that happened today. In 2009, Gary Sheffield became one of the 500 club. 2001, Barry Bonds became part of the 500 club. 2007, the Washington Nationals wore Virginia Tech hats. And to honor the 32 victims that were killed in the shooting rampage at Virginia Tech the day prior. They were playing against Atlanta that day. They all the Nationals were the only team that actually wore the hats, but all of them had a moment of silence for that. And in 1912, this one's actually kind of cool. 1912, the New Look Yankees debuted their pinstripes. Because they were actually playing a charity match on this day in 1912 to raise money for the victims and families of victims of the Titanic. So yes, so the pinstripes came out today.
Titanic, you say?
Titanic, yes.
This is really complicated, Greg.
I think Dave's found the war that we're looking at right now.
What is this sport that you're making me? Okay. Thank you for making me learn about this thing.
It is a stupid stat, by the way.
So
I'm not a fan.
I'm learning that real quickly, and as I've learned it, so we're going to actually go into the real installment, this week's installment of What Did Dave Learn This Week?
Duck, 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 duck. What did Dave learn this week? Today!
Okay, so WAR, war, wins above replacement.
Yes.
First of all, how do I say it? Do I say war? Do I say WAR? Can I say war? Can I just say war?
Let's just say war.
I'm just going to say war. But would people call it WAR?
Some literally actually do the entire thing like wins above replacement.
Okay, well, I'm going to call it war because just for brevity's sake.
Oh, yeah.
So as I'm learning here, war is an attempt to use something that is called lightsaber metrics.
Taken from yet another war, one of Star.
to summarize a player's total contribution into one single all-encompassing statistic. And so wins above replacement, the name essentially means that that if I lose a player to injury or whatever, and I have to replace that player with a minor leaguer or an AAA player,
a fictitious generic player,
right?
Yes.
How many wins would I be sacrificing?
Yeah.
And once you get that number, then you can rank people. So so if a player has a WAR of 0 to 1, they're a scrub.
Yeah.
And if they have like a 5 to 6, they're like a superstar. Yeah. And if they're over 6,
there's a couple guys that have 8 and 10 right now. Yeah.
Yes. It's a very, very simple, very simple thing to calculate this. Oh wait, hey,
we have a caller.
Do we have a caller?
We have a caller.
We have our very first. Wow. We have our very first call. Okay, I'm going to. Well, maybe someone's going to talk about war, but I am going to talk about it a little bit more. But I want to.
You've covered a good amount of it.
Someone is watching us.
Let's see this caller.
All right.
Kenny.
What's going on, guys?
Not much, man. How you doing? I really wanted him to say, long-time listener, first-time caller.
I know.
You didn't. You had your opportunity.
Oh, man. I think that you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you very much. I'm glad that we have a watcher.
Yes.
Thanks.
My big question for you guys right now. So the way the Jays season has gone so far, obviously they haven't played in a couple of days. The starting pitching is the strength of this team, but they've really relied on the big hit at the right time, and they seem to have been getting it early on in the season. They've been doing phenomenal with runners in scoring position. I don't have the stats right in front of me, but lots of home runs, and they seem to be really reliant on the long balls. That's sustainable through the long term, because it seems like that's a recipe for disaster moving down the stretch here if you're going to try to replicate that, particularly with some of the names in this lineup. And if Donaldson, Devin Travis, they're going to be in and out of the lineup, it could spell trouble for the Jays down the stretch.
No, that's actually a great question. You are correct that they have relied on the long ball, the big hit, and the fact that hit hasn't really come at the beginning of the game. A lot of the time it's come at the end of the game. But it has been different guys sort of contributing. I mean, you had Teoscar Hernandez the other night in the 8th inning coming off the bench with a couple of big RBIs. You had Donaldson with the grand slam earlier on in the season. But I mean, all their hits have been coming against essentially the relief and the bullpen. So they're not doing so hot against the starting pitchers. I don't know if it's sustainable or not, but I know that we are exploiting the right aspects of the game. Like they're sort of handling themselves, like not necessarily playing poorly in the first part against like the starting pitching, but they are feasting on the relief. But it's going to be tough to handle that one. The one bonus about it is the American League East is a home run league. Most of the stadiums are essentially homer parks, so that's one plus in their favor. But it's tough to see them sustaining that for the long time. I like the fact that they've done so well this early.
But wait, isn't it not true that the Blue Jays sort of in the modern, like in the last X amount of years, and John Gibbs in particular, are pretty much stressed that that's what the team is about? The
American League East in general is a homer league.
Yeah.
Hence, the Yankees loading up on picking up Stanton. But it's tough to do. Like this is actually kind of a neat little statistic. The league in general, like Major League Baseball in general, has been relying on the timely hit and also power specifically, because there has been more strikeouts. The strikeout rate per batter has gone up. The walk rate per batter has gone up. So that means the ball in play statistic, ball in play percentage is lower. But the funny part is that means that the guys are actually hitting at exactly the right part and exactly hitting for power, not necessarily doing going for batting average, getting on base. They're trying to do doubles, triples, and homers. So it's a stat that has been increasing throughout baseball in general, but it is tough to sustain.
Hey, speaking of stats,
yeah,
is Ken, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, give us a follow.
Get a nice little like.
It's going to put a lot of pressure on your starting pitching, and the Blue Jays are going to be very reliant on that.
Yeah.
They aren't getting them any run support early. It's going to make it difficult for Happ, Estrada, Stroman, Sanchez, for these guys to really go out and attack the opposition, which is what they're going to need to do if they want to be successful in the American League East. You said it yourself, Greg, there's a lot of hitters-friendly parks there. And the Red Sox and the Yankees, those lineups, they're going to put up some numbers once they settle in later on in the year. I don't think anybody thinks Giancarlo Stanton is going to be struggling the same way he is right now come All-Star break. So they're going to need to figure something out and get some run support going.
No, I agree. The bonus about that is our bullpen, which a lot of people predicted to be the worst aspect of the team, has actually performed pretty well in the first batch of games. And I mean, Osuna's been lights out. So yeah, that's a great question, Kenny. And I actually agree with you. It's going to be hard to sustain. It'll be when we see the Yankees a second time, specifically in New York, and we haven't played Boston yet either. We'll see how they fare against that.
Ken, I'll tell you that I fully disagree with you. and I also have no idea what you're talking about. But I really, really do appreciate you being our very first caller in this. Is it the first caller? Did you ever have a caller last year?
No, someone literally phoned me on my phone beforehand. But,
okay, so I'm going to call it a 1.5.
Yes.
Thank you so much for calling in.
Oh, you're welcome, guys. You're doing a great job. Keep it up, huh?
Thanks,
all right,
Kenny.
have some fun. All right. So did you want to? You made me research all this stuff, so I'm just going to go real quick for this because it's like this enormous formula, which is different for pitchers and different for position players to calculate WAR. The what we were talking about, which was the wins above replacement.
Yes.
Yeah, I learned that. And it's got all these different variables. You've got batting runs plus base running runs plus fielding runs plus positional adjustment plus league adjustment plus replacement runs divided by runs per win. And that's the simple version of the position player's WAR. The problem with this is that these variables, there are competing ways to define them. And so you have different people in different companies who are calculating this based on their own variations of logic. And these pages of formulas that you see going on with this, first of all, I think it's just basketball envy because earned wins are the EWA has been in existence for NBA for a while, and it's much simpler. But it's just astonishing to me, and truly, then you get to catchers where WAR apparently is completely full of crap, and no one seems to know how to do it. So, what you get out of this is that you have like players whose numbers are vastly different, and even like if you tweak the formula a little bit, like you have like Yadier Molina.
Part of the Flying Molina family.
His 2014 season just recently changed from a 2.35 WAR to 3.7. That changes him in that season from being like a role player to like a
better catcher,
to a much better catcher. I have to confirm this. Do we actually have another caller?
Wow. All right, this is good.
All right, good. This is less work for me. All right, bring him on. Who have we got?
Hey, Josh, what's up?
Hey, guys, how are you?
Oh, we're doing pretty good.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's good. I'm really enjoying the show. I really like the kind of baseball homework vibe that we've got going on here. There are lots of stats and formula and stuff like that. I wanted to touch on something that came up earlier, which was the Blue Jays home stadium. And I wanted to get your guys' take on people who still insist on calling it Skydome versus Rogers Center.
What can you tell us what were we calling it? Because I don't remember.
I just call it the Dome. I think I was
calling it Skydome.
Yeah, it's generically fine because it is a dome stadium. But
yeah.
I grew up with the Skydome, and to be honest, the Rogers Center. I mean, granted they own the team, but I myself feel that it would have been better suited as Rogers Park, Rogers Stadium, Rogers Field, anything. Rogers Center just sounds too generically mall-ish.
What is it the center of?
The center of baseball in Toronto, I guess. Yeah.
It's the center of the corporate overreach of the Rogers Corporation.
What is the Wi-Fi on this place right now? And the show will be cutting off in a second.
I have a few bones to pick with Rogers.
Why, Josh? What do you call it? What is your lexicon?
You guys definitely referenced Rogers Center earlier.
Oh, yeah,
that's what made me think of the question. But I definitely call it Rogers Center. Now, it helps that I worked for Rogers for 10 years. But nothing brings me more delight than correcting people that still call it Skydome.
Are you going to call Air Canada Center the Scotia Bank Emporium when it changes its name next year?
I don't watch any hockey, so I can't imagine that coming up in conversation. I had and basketball. Good point.
Yeah.
I had a follow-up question, which is, do you guys have any favorite stadiums that you visited?
Oh, me? Yes, I do. Most definitely. I mean, if you go to some of the old parks, they're always pretty cool. I've been to Fenway, been to Wrigley Field. Wrigley Field was actually pretty cool because of the fact that it's in the middle of a neighborhood. The park itself actually sucks. Like the sight lines are crap and there's pillars in the way. But it's just one of those ones to sort of being in. Seattle's is very, very cool. Safeco is awesome. That's actually a nice little dome with grass as well.
See, it can be done. It can be done. For me, it's actually and it's whatever. I mean, a lot of people will say, but it's Fenway, which is amazing. My reason being is that it's the only stadium that I've ever seen a vending machine that dispenses exclusively strictly kosher food. It's called Hot Nosh, and it's and it's right along the third baseline somewhere, and it's amazing. Completely kosher food. It does not work Friday night through Saturday night
for the all important weekend series. Yeah,
but Fenway is a pretty amazing park. It's a great experience going there.
And Exhibition Stadium. If you want to talk about properly built stadiums. No, that was a piece of that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was a great little seagull house too.
We used to go to Exhibition Stadium. My dad would take me down to those games, and the benches with no backs, super cold. They're made out of aluminum, and everybody would stomp their feet, and the entire stadium would shake. Oh, yeah. And because of that, I have very, very fond memories of that stadium.
Oh yeah. What about you, Josh?
I've been to Petco before. That was really cool.
Petco is actually really cool.
Where's that? Where's
San Diego?
Okay.
Yeah.
San Diego.
And also, I've been to Fenway once. I've only been to Boston once. Didn't have a ticket to the game. They were super nice to me. I went up to the stadium and said, "Look, I'm here. The game is midway through. Can I go see it?" And they let me go in without a ticket just to go look around. All I had to do was leave my girlfriend at the gate as collateral.
I thought normally they just ask for one shoe,
yeah,
the one that you're wearing. So you got to come back for it. But girlfriend will do.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Josh, thanks for calling in.
Wow, caller number 2. We've hit a record.
Ooh, I know. there was no record before. We've infinitely smashed it.
It's amazing. Thank you so much for calling in.
All right, so you know what, we've pretty much covered war.
Yeah,
I think war.
Yeah, we can.
I'm not a fan of that stat.
I got a lot of stuff about like the worsts ever and the bests ever of it, and it's like some guy named Babe Ruth, who owns like 5 of the top 10 single season war stats. 5 of the top 10.
That's the thing is they weren't even using it at the time.
So now you're applying
it
to
people
back. Who are long dead and to stats keepers who are long dead and probably drunk.
Yeah. As Babe Ruth was.
Right. But then you also have players who have negative wars, which is just great. You're a liability. If you got injured and we replaced you with a minor leaguer, we would start winning more games.
Yeah, and the worst part is when people are going back and retroactively giving these guys negatives. They could have told their grandkids they played in the majors, and then all of a sudden now they look and you sucked in the majors.
It's ridiculous. There's like I thought one notable one for really bad. Oh wait a minute. Nope. Oh yeah. So Jerry Royster. 1977 with the Braves, and he had a negative 3.8, which is particularly bad for a single season. And it's notable just because the previous year he was named to the Topps All-Star rookie team. So in 1 year he was from one of the best rookies in the game to just completely suck.
Yeah, that sophomore slump.
Yeah,
it happens in shows too.
Yeah. All right, so let's skip past war.
All right, so we've done war, and one of the other things I gave you was Bartolo Colon. Colon.
I've been calling him Bartolo Colon.
Colon, yes.
Yeah. So, but big man, big sexy.
Big sexy. He's essentially the Ish Smith of baseball.
He's been on 11 teams over 21 years.
Yeah. And and he took a perfect game into the 8th inning against the Astros against a multiple Cy Young winning pitcher and against the World Series champ Astros. And he took a perfect game into the 8th inning, ended up giving up a hit and giving up a run. So he ended up not getting the win. The Rangers ended up winning in extra innings. But that's a stat that you can also go like, that's kind of a crap stat, because that was a phenomenal start. He pitched 8 innings, got taken out, and someone who came in through 1 inning of baseball, and just randomly, because your guy got the hit at that point in time, he gets the win, and Bartolo gets the no decision.
Wow, that's
so wins and losses it's a very telling stat, but it's not an accurate stat.
Yeah,
it's not an accurate stat, because you're also relying on how good your fielding is as well. So there are these sabermetric stats that exist to
lightsaber metrics
that exist to counteract this, but some of them are stupid, like war.
I'm learning, folks. Really,
some actually fun things that happened in the weekend as well. Our boy Shohei Ohtani.
Japan's
Anthony Ghost.
Japan's Anthony Ghost
was had an at bat in Kansas City, and there was a Japanese contingent of girls that were screaming for him, and apparently the Angels, Shohei's team, went and got an usher to tell them to keep quiet so that he could concentrate. And he did not want this to happen. But poor kid. Now, you tell me that people aren't going to do this now, because that was in a visiting park. It wasn't even in the Angels. It wasn't even an Angel Stadium.
He's going to be a complete phenomenon. He's just
but the thing is like that's something that baseball fans will twig onto. Like the stadiums are going to pipe in that specific noise because now it's a thing. It's become a thing now.
I was also with our old man Bartolo. The fact that he's a 44-year-old man, the oldest man currently playing in the major leagues, and he's an enormous human being with an unbelievably fast 88-mile-per-hour fastball, and yet he somehow keeps doing it. And he almost didn't even play this year.
Yeah,
as far as I understand,
he had a deal with his mom that he wanted to play until he was 44. And then,
well, here he goes. I mean, but what I learned about him that I thought was pretty cool, what I did not know, is that he's the last active major league player to have played for the Montreal Expos.
Yes,
a team that has not existed since the year 2004
for 13 years. Yeah.
So for context for you, it is possible. It is possible for Colon to have played for the Expos, had a child, converted to Judaism, and given that child a bar mitzvah in the time since the Expos have ceased to exist.
And he is still playing. Yeah.
And that's amazing. And so I truly do hope. I was wondering, because the Jays have a propensity for older pitchers, and I was wondering what your thoughts are on what do you think about R.A. Dickey and Jason Grilli? Are they done?
Both
they haven't retired.
Grilli is kind of done. Dickey is sort of on sabbatical. He's theoretically still, I believe he's still under Atlanta's contract, but I don't think he's going to play. You know what? Dickey's had a great career. Dickey's won a Cy Young. I mean, he's a writer. He's got some books published. The guy's a world traveler, so he's fine. Jason Grilli had a little resurgence with Toronto that first year and became sort of a fan favorite. We always loved the lunchbox guys, and they're totally. I think I would be fine with my career if I ended up like them. I am pretty much the same age as Bartolo Colon at this point in time.
What have we done? We've made terrible choices, Greg.
I had very bad choices. Yeah. Yes. Look at this. Yeah. Actually, so Bartolo is hence you mentioned bar mitzvah, so I figure we should do our bench from the bench this week.
Of course we need to do that.
Bench from the bench time. SCH.
I think so.
Yeah. All right, now usually the bench from the bench is someone from the Jays, but I actually have to give it to someone from the visiting team this week. on their trip from the airport to Toronto, like because the airport, let's be honest, the airport is not in Toronto.
Yeah.
Pearson is not in Toronto. The Kansas City bus actually had a shard of ice go right through the glass, and it actually smashed and cut up the bus driver's face. So Blaine Boyer had to step in and Sandra Bullock this bus and essentially drive the bus and make sure that the bus didn't crash. At least he didn't have to keep it above 55.
Right.
But yeah, he literally stepped off the bench and hopped into the driver's seat and made sure that they didn't die. So I'm going to say Blaine Boyer, relief pitcher for the Kansas City Royals, is the bench from the bench this week.
Lifesaver.
Yeah.
Lifesaver.
Sandra
That's
Bullock.
amazing.
Yeah.
How's the bus driver?
Yeah. The bus driver is fine.
Okay.
He's cut up,
Yeah.
but he's, nothing major. Yeah.
All this crazy weather. Personally, I blame Al Gore.
Again, yes. Because, if he got elected, we wouldn't have this problem.
No, it's just that he brought our attention to it.
Oh.
If he hadn't done that, we wouldn't even know that things are
no one
happening.
would care. Yeah, no one would care. Yeah.
All right.
So first game of the doubleheader is in the books. The Jays are going on right now. Right now, it is actually Joe Biagini pitching for the Jays because it's a doubleheader, so you do get to expand the roster a little bit, giving the rest of the guys some breaks. And then tomorrow is Happ versus Kennedy. I hope we can get through all the games without any major problems happening to the stadium.
Yeah, maybe the Jays will actually play a game this week.
Yeah.
And well, they beyond the scope of today.
Beyond the scope of today.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Anything else to bring up, Dave? Or
No, I think we're doing pretty good. We put in some solid minutes.
Yes.
Some solid minutes, Greg. And so I'd like to thank pretty much everyone who's involved in the project. To really just thank you so much to Stage 10. Please go to stage10.tv. It's a website that allows you to broadcast fine podcasts like our own, and you can do all the camera switching, add the graphics, and live stream to various platforms. We're currently on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, something called Periscope,
and something called iTunes.
Yeah,
iTunes.
Yeah. So if you're sick of looking at our faces, you can hear us on Spotify and iTunes. My God, we are branching out.
I know, and we officially have a sponsor this week as well. We got to give a little props up to Henderson.
Yeah.
They're going to be giving us some beers to drink and some swag to give out. So starting next week, we will have a little trivia contest and some Henderson cheers.
Oh yeah.
Henderson products to give out as well.
Thanks for tuning in, folks. Please come and join us again and tell your friends. All right.
Cool.
Yep.
Oh, and Kenny and Josh, thank you.
Absolutely. And